I'm Brian Carpenter, host of Fresh Air at 5, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome, folks, to the HiTech Podcast. This is your co-host, William Illingworth, joined by my co-host, Joshua Swartz. You there?
That's me. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here. And I've just had an epiphany right now as you opened. Why it always sounds weird when we say co-hosts? Okay, we're coming back to this topic. This topic comes up several episodes, folks.
Yeah.
So I think it's because we always say your co-host to the people listening, you know? And we're not their co-hosts.
I'm not co-hosting their life.
Yeah, like we're not co-hosting their life as far as I know. I don't know. I mean, we could. That would be fine. That would be a weird thing. But I guess we could record the podcast of your life and we could be your co-host. But
what I'm hearing is if we were to co-host other people, then they could sing the song "William Take the Wheel" like Carrie Underwood.
I mean,
right?
they could.
I will say
the Carrie Underwood song, I'm pretty sure isn't William. That's although that would be,
if I got it right. I don't even know if it's Carrie Underwood. It is, yes.
Is it? Is she the one who sings that?
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I was very unconfident, so I just went with your lead. But
it's fine. I just love to lean into heresy where I am Jesus. You know, that's just it's fine. I'm here to take the wheel from you.
I feel uncomfortable with what's just happened on this episode. No, I'm just this is where Will and I get struck down. Or at least Will does, and I get hurt by the blowback from the lightning.
Suddenly, we have one host.
Yeah, suddenly this co-host thing is no longer a conversation.
We just made it easier for you.
Yeah, we just made it easier. Yeah.
Well, that's us. It's us always trying to figure out something to start these episodes off with, other than the fact that we're here. Hey, surprise! This is episode 121. We're very excited for this episode to be an interview conversation with Jonathan Libov from Antimatter Systems. Now, I'm usually an anti guy, but I think he said antimatter.
Yeah, I say antimatter.
Lean into the antimatter.
There's a right way and a wrong way to say
website.
it. One might say.
No. There's a wrong way to say his name. I said the company. Well, the company name.
Yeah.
Anti or anti. People go either. Should we do a hot take? Are we doing a hot take right here?
A hot take.
Anti or
anti? The hot take's simple. It's anti. There's not like that hard of a. It's not that hard of a hot take.
All right, I'll just leave it be. I could debate this.
If we did episode polls, I would ask everybody to tell us, but we don't currently. But we could.
Write a note. I could do it with this one.
We could just do a poll. Actually, if you feel that that Will is wrong, you can call him at.
Whoa. Actually, I've been tempted before to do a podcast phone number because you can do like Google Voice numbers and stuff like that. So we could put something together for that.
Let us know on Twitter or by email if we should do a podcast number. If you would give us a call or text us, if we get one person, I'll be cool with it.
Send that email to
and tells us that
send that email to.
I'll say we get a number.
inbox@hitechpod.us. If you send that email to inbox@hitechpod.us, Robin, you're discounted. Okay, no. If Robin does it, that's not enough.
That's true. Robin, you don't count. I'm sorry. If you're listening to the podcast, you don't count as that one person.
Maybe even someone other than Christy. All right. So I think Robin and Christy are discounted. If you email us, we're not getting the number. But if anyone else emails us,
Christy, if you're listening and you email us, I'll push Will to get the number. Just so you know. That's if you're listening to the podcast.
But we digress.
So we are here to talk about antimatter specifically. Antimatter systems. I'm excited to see how I just took the wheel there from you, Will. Josh took the wheel. I'm on fire. I'm on fire today. Antimatter systems. We're here to talk about that. If you're listening and you don't know what antimatter systems is, all I can say is it's not what you think it is. That's clear. Like
Yeah, this is not about geothermal. It's not about physics.
Yeah,
it's not
this
about
is
anything. It's
not
about
like this
memes.
this is memes. For context, I get a ping from Will. Only one. He never talks to me other than
Never.
I'm just joking. That's not true.
This was like 3 months ago.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the last time we talked to me. We haven't seen each other for a while. I don't know how we've been doing these episodes. So Will sends to me and goes, I scheduled an educational meme tool to come on to the podcast. Normally Will also will chat about whether we want to do a tool or not. Like this one, Will was like, nope, scheduled immediately. And he was absolutely correct. Yes. I'm so excited for this interview. That we were talking about memes for the entire episode. It is fantastic.
Well, I think that's enough. Let's kick it over.
Yeah.
We'll hear from Jonathan himself and get into what antimatter is, how to start using it, and even why we should do it in the first place. Let's roll. Folks, you know it's going to be a good one when we're coming in. My cheeks already hurt because we've been laughing a good bit. This time it's been a lot of technical issues as we get ourselves going, but we are here. It is happening. And the HiTech Podcast is very excited to welcome Jonathan Libov to the show. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and you nailed my last name, so I'm impressed. We're off to a good start.
Took some practice. You're joining us because you are the founder, creator, CEO, you tell us, of Antimatter Systems. And everyone's going to know what Antimatter is by the time we're done with this, but give us a little bit of background. Correct me. Which one are you, and what are we doing with Antimatter?
You got it right again. I am the founder and CEO of Antimatter. We are a platform for teaching and learning through memes.
Oh, yes. That's it. We say the memes word, and Josh and I are just more than excited.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one's going to be pretty easy. Sometimes you talk about a tool and it's like, what the heck does that even do? All right, we know memes. Everybody knows memes. Yeah. How the heck did you come up with this? How did you find an educational bend or turn to memes?
Sure. So naturally, this is a question that I get from friends and family, right? You tell them, what do you do? Platform for teaching and learning through memes. I'm sorry. What do you do? Memes? The most important thing that I can convey is, we didn't invent antimatter. We discovered antimatter, right?
Cool.
And I mean that in the sense that teachers were asking their students to make memes in the classroom long before we existed, right? Likewise, I kind of stumbled into this by joining the physics memes subreddit. It was the third learning meme community that I had joined.
Okay.
I had never thought of, the two others at the time were Daily Roman Updates on Twitter and History Memes _explained on Instagram.
Wow.
The last one it's brilliant, right? Like the first, it's like you have that kind of carousel for image posts on Instagram. The first image in the carousel is a meme. The next 5 of them are explainers.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant. So I also eventually discovered that there are many, many learning meme communities on the internet. There is a Facebook group called Etymology Memes for Reconstructed Phonemes that has something like 110,000 members. And that's etymology.
These names are wild to me right now. You've just laid out so many names to communities, and they're
everywhere.
They're just amazing.
Hopefully the links are in the show notes.
Well, and hashtag Roman Empire is going around right now because there's this movement. It's amazing that that's a meme thing. Everybody's wondering, do all men think about the Roman Empire? And I'm just stunned that there's a meme community for that specifically. Of course.
Yeah. Well, that was last week. Kevin James is this week, but by the time I guess this airs, it'll be some other meme. So the long and short of it, right, is you have these two emergent behaviors happening at the same time. And prior life, I was an investor at a venture capital firm, and so you're sort of trained to be kind of skeptical but optimistic, right? But skeptical. Okay. Yeah. And so I always wanted to start a company. I thought I might never do it because any sort of like germ of an idea would be kind of tamped down by the skepticism.
Yeah.
But I knew that when you have when you have one emergent behavior that you observe, right, you have to kind of think about starting the company. When there are two, you're sort of obligated to do it. And so there's a lot that happened between then and now, but those are sort of, kind of the first rumblings of antimatter.
That's really awesome. And, I bet you had a few laughs along the way as you're doing it, but now to think about the fact that if teachers are already doing it, great, but we can make it easier to do, and we could probably cultivate better practice. I mean, there's so much that I'm assuming you have a background in education if you found it through physics.
Yeah, no, I'm not an educator by trade. So I joined, I just might have been recommended to me in the feed. I don't quite recall. But to go a little deeper, right? It was I think the first one that I saw was something that I didn't understand, right? And I kind of wanted to understand it, right? And so I joined the sub, and about a month later, there was a really elaborate video meme,
Okay.
which was impressive. But the remarkable thing was that the top comment was like, "Great meme, but you're sort of misrepresenting friction here," right? He was like quibbling with the veracity of the meme.
Wow.
Right. And so if
Wow.
just the idea of there being learning meme communities was the first light bulb went off, the second was that the meme itself doesn't teach you anything. You can't look at the meme and learn something in the same way that you could by watching a YouTube video, reading a Wikipedia article, or reading your textbook. But rather, the meme is like a puzzle around which people congregate, right? And so that first person sort of quibbled with the veracity of the meme, and the conversation evolved or devolved, however you want to think about it, as happens on Reddit, into like a meaty discussion of the subject matter, right?
Wow.
And once I kind of had that framework, I saw other things that were just really interesting, right? Like the top comment would be, "I don't get it," and then you'd see other people. Usually, I think the physics meme sub is mostly grad students, maybe college students, and people like myself who enjoy physics but haven't been in an educational environment in a long time. Saw them jumping in as teachers in situ, right, answering the questions for them, which is it's a beautiful thing to see, right? And I also sort of reflected on the fact that memes have this kind of like this binary outcome where you either understand the joke and you feel part of the in-group, or you don't understand the joke and you need to learn more, right? Because it's almost like getting a joke but missing the punchline, because right, the punchline relies on your understanding. And so, I mean, I experienced this today, right? I'm a busy startup founder with 2 kids at home, one who, just interrupted. I don't really have time, so when I'm looking through the trust and safety app that we have to make sure that all the memes that go up on Antimatter are all, kosher and appropriate, like, I'll see like chemistry memes that I have to go look up on Wikipedia because like this is not information that I need, in my job or in my life at the moment, but it's irresistible because somebody finds it funny and I'm on the outside looking in, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, those are really nice characteristics for, learning material, right? Those are puzzles, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And to connect us to the classroom, I took those observations to my best friend from college. He's now a high school history teacher.
Okay.
I was sort of expecting him to say, it's a cute idea, for a startup, perhaps.
Yeah.
And his response was, "I use memes in the classroom all the time. I create them for test prep. More importantly, I ask my students to make memes because they're tiny little stories. And it's really hard to tell a good story or a good joke or to create a puzzle." That's how we think about memes and antimatter, as puzzles. if you
Okay.
don't really understand the subject matter, right? That is what teachers call formative assessment. That friend of mine also introduced me to Bloom's taxonomy, which, as I came to learn, is one of the bedrocks of educational theory, right? The bottom rung of Bloom's taxonomy being memorization, right? It's important. It has its time and place, but educators and learners, right, aspire to the top of Bloom's taxonomy, which is creation and evaluation. I'm happy to talk more about that, but it's I think maybe you can already sort of make the connection to meme creation.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and one of the beautiful things we get to experience on this side of the 21st century is mimetic culture being prolific. Memes are not new. The idea of meming is not new. It's this idea of like creating an association with unlike characteristics, and there's shared aspects of memes through culture, just like my dad did it that way, so I did it that way. There's things. It's been human for a very long time. Now memes are in our faces every day. Every single screen we touch has a meme on it for something. And there's whole subreddits dedicated to just like, please explain this meme to me. It's not even the physics group talking about their physics memes. It's like, come drop any meme you want to here and we'll explain it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful thing to see community happening around that.
Yeah.
Look, memes make the world go around today, right? There's no reason why that shouldn't be the same in education, right? Like, one of the I think one of the challenges that I have when I'm explaining to my friends and family why we do what we do, or in marketing, maybe to some teachers who aren't already using memes in the classroom, is that we don't do this because social media is fun, right? Or to like meet the kids where they are. It's not why we do it. It's because memes are the shortest form of storytelling that's ever been invented. They compress information better than anything else, right? Memes in sort of the semi-traditional sense, right? Captions over images, which, by the way, right? We probably, three of us probably looked at Thomas Nast cartoons when political cartoons when we were in school, right? That's a caption over an image that compresses information, where it's certainly not a funny cartoon if you don't have any context, right? If you don't understand the subject matter, right? The punchline derives from your own understanding. And essentially what we're doing is Thomas Nasting all the time, all over the internet, in classrooms and everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the way you're describing it, this is interesting because I always find this context interesting having these conversations, because you're right. Like in education, it's I think more out there now, people using memes and in education than it was before. But I still always have those situations where like people just don't get it, or like don't understand what this is about, right? And I think what's interesting is, so you're saying kind of the way you're necessarily kind of explaining it and how it works in education is taking a look at it of kind of like, this is a storytelling technique of kind of compressing information, and it kind of becomes like a puzzle almost, is what I'm hearing you say, and the kind of the way it breaks down in education.
That's totally right. And when I don't know, if I, again, speaking to those friends and family who I can see they still don't totally get it. I'll often, I'll use this example that, like they may be thinking of reaction GIFs, right? Like, they as just a general blob of like what memes are, but in fact, right, reaction GIFs, they're almost the polar opposite of memes. They're the least amount of information you can convey in the most amount of pixels, right? Like, why do people use reaction GIFs in, text threads or in Slack? It's generally to say yes, or excited, or confused, right? When you can just type yes, excited or confused, right? And here I am, the founder of a meme company. Honestly, I've always loathed reaction GIFs. Because I like my information really compressed. And so, memes are the opposite, right? They're the most amount of information you can convey in the least amount of pixels, which kind of goes back to that point about, we're not doing this because social media is fun or to meet the kids where they are. If we were, you've been to our website, right? There'd be reaction GIFs all over the place.
Yeah.
it's not the case, right? Memes are tiny little stories. They're better than the stories. They're puzzles.
Yeah. You even evoke that with like the first imagery on your website where you've got the layers on a meme and you're showing the three layers to it. But even in the background, there's kind of this geometric shape superimposed over some images that like I'm pulled right into the puzzle from the get-go. And then you scroll down and I see Pikachu. Like I'm in, it's all it
Yeah.
takes for me to say, okay, you've got this idea behind it, but you're also trying to be real and relevant, because memes are also only as powerful as the relevancy. If we don't have the shared meaning, it loses the impact, whether it's from the caption or the image, right? If I show my mom a Pikachu gif, maybe the text will grab her, maybe. But like, she's like, what is this thing? What am I looking at?
Yeah, what is
She might
this
just
yellow
say,
mouse?
why are you so excited, right?
Yeah.
We show her the Pikachu gif. Just tell me what you're excited about. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there needs to be, that's part of like, even like you're saying, reaction gifs are some kind of meme. The Numa video of the nexus of YouTube is a meme in itself, but that loses some relevancy as we move further from that happening almost 20 years ago or more at this point.
That's exactly right. And that's, to go back to the point about the Kevin James meme template, which is going around the internet right now. Again, by the time this airs, it's going to be, very, very old, right? I mean, how long did the Will Smith punching Chris Rock meme? I mean, it was literally that night. If you used it the next day, you were like a boomer, basically. Which is interesting, looking at sort of like the kind of the longer arc of meme culture, right? If you maybe like 10 years ago, there was like 100 templates, right? And you just use one of those hundred. Maybe like 5 years ago, it was sort of like a rapid expansion of the number of meme templates, and they would tend to be used more quickly, right? Like, you remember the Ever Given? It was the container ship that, I think it was a container ship, might have been an oil tanker that ran aground, and there was like that little like dinghy that was trying to dig it out. That became a sort of an emergent meme.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I think today what you're seeing is these like meme templates have very, I don't want to say sort of short life cycles, but it's all much less canonical. It's much more like collage driven. Like the best memes that we see on Antimatter, I barely even want to describe them as memes, because they're often not just using a template, but they'll be like pasting somebody's head onto "this is fine" and adding some other caption that or like mixing two meme templates together. Right? This is really just intense, highly compressed visual storytelling. Right. I mean, if I were to get really grandiose, right, it's almost like, in the long arc from, cave paintings, to the Gutenberg press, and like to where we are today. Right. I mean, where does your average Gen Zer go first for information? It's not necessarily Google. There's a good chance it's YouTube or TikTok, right? Like everything is intensely visual, which is not to say that it's like visual good, text bad. But rather, it kind of sounds corny, but picture speaks 1,000 words, right? Is it 1,000 or 1,000,000? Either way, it's a lot of words.
A lot of words.
more than we can.
More, yeah, exactly.
Well, when you think about the classroom experience too, right? Like you've referenced storytelling time and time again. Every instructor, every teacher is trying to tell a story, and any tool they can have to make that story more impactful or more digestible is the key to education. Like I almost feel like we don't even need to ask some of the questions we plan to go into, because like if you don't get the value of this as an educational tool, memes, but specifically Antimatter as the delivery system for that, I don't, go listen to somebody else's podcast.
No, well, still listen to the HiTech Podcast because Josh likes
fair,
you.
fair, stay.
Will might want to get rid of you, but you can come. You can stay here. It's okay. Don't listen to me, Will.
Let's get to the next episode if you
Yeah.
don't get it by now. Yes.
Let's skip to the next one. Yeah, it's interesting because as you're talking about it, like it makes sense, right? It's one of those things that like I understand why people get confused by it, or like it seems like a weird connection, education and memes. But like I think we're hitting an area where memes have become more of a communication tool that are less like the kind of like it's only the kids doing it. Like that's not the case anymore. I mean, memes is through culture at different generations and it's being used all over the place. So it makes sense that this would be something that could be a very useful communication tool to use in education.
Look, it's not even the case that like we're appealing to like Gen Z, like early millennial teachers who grew up with memes. Like it's 50, 55-year-old teachers. In fact, those teachers who are new to the profession, the idea of using memes in the classroom seems kind of risky. But even the 50 and 55-year-olds, right? They understand what you just conveyed, which is that storytelling in the classroom, not only, the teacher telling the stories to the students or presenting stories, but the students being able to tell a story themselves is as good as it gets, right? In terms of education, right? I mean, take Hamilton, for example, right?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like one of the ways that I'll describe antimatter is that in the long run, we want like the next Hamilton to be built on antimatter, right? We've got a ways to go until we can support that kind of the kind of infrastructure to make a Broadway hit. Sure. But right, think in Bloom's taxonomy terms, right? Creation and evaluation, right? Lin-Manuel Miranda clearly, he knows, I'm sure, knew the history like the back of his hand, right? But he created a novel story in a novel medium that conveys many truths about that time period and about Alexander Hamilton himself, right? That's the creation angle. You also have the evaluation angle, which is if you're a history scholar who's attending, has heard about the play and knows all about this period of history and wants to go evaluate it for yourself, right? You might quibble and say, well, like that Reddit poster, well, that's not quite true, or you're not presenting that quite accurately. Now imagine that in the classroom, right? A kid makes a meme, he creates a meme, he creates a story or a puzzle, and it's being evaluated by the other kids in the classroom who, and look, that's where the learning happens, right? Again, the meme is not something you can learn from by itself. The richness of the activity happens in the review and the discussion of the memes after the fact. Again, this is just memes make the world go round.
Yeah,
well, and I love you bringing up Hamilton. That makes me think actually of what happened with Bridgerton. If you're not familiar, right? It's a very popular Netflix TV show that's just a drama, and somebody fell in love with it and came up with a Broadway musical on TikTok. They made something in response to it because they're like, oh my gosh, this should be a musical. So they came up with the musical on their own. Legal battles ensued, of course, who owns it, the parody, who gets the money, but like they got through that. And Bridgerton, the musical, does exist because one person put out theirs and someone replied and then they connected and like, we could do this. And they made a musical in response to a TV show. So it sounds like you're trying to catch up to TikTok in that regards with your meme, hosting that place for creation.
It's certainly true in some regards, and that example kind of points to maybe another angle on antimatter, which is that it seems it's so obvious we rarely talk about it, but what does the internet do so well? It helps to transcend time and space, right? And so today, antimatter is very much focused on tools for teachers to implement, meme creation-based activities in the classroom. Antimatter in the future is going to be enabling students and classrooms to connect across time and space. So that may look like a classroom in Dayton, Ohio, that's learning about, the Doppler effect, connects with another classroom in Honolulu, but is also learning about it. Maybe they meme together, maybe they compete, maybe they create something together. And even down to the individual learner level, we are sort of in trials with our kind of direct to learner or learner to learner app, where students can kind of compete to create memes on topics, right? And again, the learning happens in the discussion. So
Yeah.
we're very I don't know, we're very excited about the present. We're very excited about the future. What a time to be alive! What a time to be a teacher or a student.
That's awesome. That gets into a little bit, I think, what one we wanted to talk about, but to kind of, for those listening, right? We've talked a lot about memes. We've talked a lot about how it connects into education, and a little bit about Antimatter and how it does it. So, Jonathan, for those listening who haven't used it at all, how does Antimatter kind of come in and help in the meme area for the teacher or the learner, right? So it's Will and I have obviously looked at it. We know what it looks like a bit, but kind of describing to them, like if you're saying, hey, this is how it helps you do this easier, versus, because I could see people coming up and going and saying, well, I've created memes in other places, right? I've done this in education. So how does Antimatter kind of jump in and help that become an easier thing to do for people?
Sure. So that was, when I was doing my initial research, right, that was one of the things that jumped out. Is I would ask teachers, how did you conduct that meme creation activity with your classroom? And the answer was invariably, I don't know, I'd have the kids go out on the internet and make a meme. They know how to do that, and then upload it to like Google Drive, right? And then I would and then I would look at them, right? And again, putting that in the Bloom taxonomy context, right? You're really sort of like, you're losing the evaluation piece, right? Like, when you're just uploading a bunch of files to Google Drive, that's a very kind of like solitary behavior. It's not that different than doing math exercises and then submitting them. Who wants to look at what everybody else is doing? With memes, everybody, right? And so what we do for teachers today is that we provide different scaffolded activities to help facilitate meme creation. So I'll maybe walk you through, I don't know, like an example use case, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the teacher can create an activity on Antimatter. They can also remix other activities that they see from other teachers. They provide instructions. They copy the invite link, send it out to their students, right? Students log in, and they are asked to create memes in a certain way depending on that particular activity. So, for example, we have an activity called Heat Map, which is like a shared canvas. You can navigate around the canvas and see what everybody else has made. You can bless other people's memes, and the more they're blessed, the more they glow. Hence, Heat Map.
That's amazing.
It's that was the first ever activity that we created on Antimatter. We have another one called Educated Guess, where the teacher provides not only the topic like they do with Heat Map, but also a more specific prompt. So it might be like Macbeth and then a number of the characters. And we had one teacher did a guess the Macbeth character, where the students then made memes, about like Lady Macbeth, without using the term Lady Macbeth. And then at the end of the activity, you put it up on the screen and all the students have to guess which meme belongs to which prompt, right? And then just today, this kind of goes back to the conversation about the many forms that memes take now. We released an activity called New Phone Who Dis, which is a simulated iPhone chat that the teacher can set up between, say, like two historical figures, Einstein and Oppenheimer, perhaps, Caesar and Brutus.
Oh my gosh.
Two fictional characters, two concepts within science and math. And what would they say to each other, in an iMessage or an iPhone chat, right? What would they say if they were texting to each other? Again, when it hits you, it seems silly and childish, and we're just trying to meet the kids where they are. But you think about it, right? There's a long, rich tradition of having learners create dialogues, and create rhetoric and dialectics around this kind of stuff. It's just the form is a little bit different. That's all.
Yeah. Well, even like the conversation element, like there's having the students put themselves into character, like into historical characters that they're learning about. There's learning science behind that to say there's so much more that they end up learning when they don't just have to learn about what the person thought or said, but actually have to hypothetically start to pose what they would say, because they have to process that person's beliefs, that their thoughts, their way of talking, and put something and create something out that's true to that historical person, that at a different level causes you to get to know that person differently than you would of just hearing what they did, and you start to understand that historical character in a different way, and understand that history in a different way, because you start to understand that person and motivations and what they did. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, look, I couldn't put it better myself. We think of antimatter as sort of a win-win-win, right? It's a win for the teacher because they have a great activity for formative assessment. Teachers usually use it towards the end of a unit. For students, because yes, it is fun, but also it's really engaging and forces you to grapple with the subject matter. And then for the world, because the best of antimatter creations from teachers and students they make it to our Discover page, and so we're actually adding learning material to the world. Right, this is very rare. Usually, classrooms are like Vegas. What happens in the classroom stays in the classroom. Right. Here we have students producing artifacts that have learning material that has enduring value, and so why would we keep that to ourselves? Right? We give it to the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does antimatter connect through to Giphy and some of these like other meme, like not maybe specifically Giphy, but like, is there a venue to publish, or is it just up to the user then to maybe download and put it out somewhere else that they'd want to have more access?
So today we select the best memes from different activities happening around antimatter to like add to our search engine, feature on the Discover page, and then every week we select memes of the week. Right? It's kind of like jury selection. Over time, there will be something that's maybe more like audience selection. But today it's sort of like a jury selection. And obviously the teachers and students, right, they love when they get selected for the memes of the week.
Yeah.
I would love to be a kid and be like, oh, I'm on the website. Like,
Look, you can tell, right? I'm not a student today, right? But like, the thing that gets me up in the morning is, right, like these are like I would have been fawning over antimatter as a student, right? This is all I would have wanted to do. And so we say this, it's like a mantra for us. What a time to be a student or a learner, right? We build things that we think in collaboration with our the educators that consult with us, that we think would just be the kinds of things we wish we were doing when we were learners.
That is a great way to approach it. You told us a little bit about this new phone Whodis approach today.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So one of our last questions was, what's the next stage for antimatter? Like that seems like that's really in front of us, but are you actually trying to get it to a certain amount of like user base before you can take next steps, or what's the goal here as you develop for education?
So the classroom product is growing really well. We're really thrilled with it. The next step for Antimatter is that direct to learner or learner to learner product that I mentioned earlier. That's sort of now in trials. We call these quests. And so if you go to our we now have an iOS app, meaning that, again, what a time to be a learner. You can do your homework with your thumbs now, right? Making memes from your iPhone. Through the iOS app, we're going to be introducing this product called quests, which are sort of like competitions to meme a topic as best you can. And that'll be more like audience selection, right? We have a really great sort of like chat function, so you can be hashing it out in the chat. That's really the next step of Antimatter.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
I think like you're saying, like some of this is just like, I wish I had a chance at that. But we this is part of why we do the podcast. We have the chance to hopefully get this in front of more folks. Folks can head to Antimatter.systems is the primary website. They can start to use this desktop, no problems. The iOS is just rolling out for the Quest side, right? That's the thing that's coming.
Yes, we do. We do have an app in the App Store. So if you're a teacher, right, you share that invite link. If the student wants to make the meme from their phone, or you want to assign it as homework, the kids can download the app in the App Store. They can also. It's also just, we think, the very best meme gen on the App Store. So if you're listening to this and you like memes, maybe you don't like learning, you can you can use the app just as a meme gen. It's the very best meme gen in the App Store. There's no ads. There's no like pro features, watermarks, etc. Um, you can use it for that for now, and then coming soon to the iOS app is Quests.
Okay.
So we're not on Android yet.
Sort of, I guess, you're holding up your Android phone right now. Probably the same answer that everybody else gives is coming soon,
there's a market.
exclamation point, with no firm commitment on when it's coming soon.
It's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah,
That's my
It's
life.
fine. I'm gonna download it here on my my
We love that. Everything's got to come over time. This is just awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time with us, Jonathan, because we are using these every day. Love to see people take advantage of this for more intentional purposes. And like you said, you've already met teachers who were doing it. So this tool is going to make it easier. Is going to deliver that avenue for them, reduce barriers, protect the students. I assume, there's going to be that space where it's protected environments and they, you guys, I love that you already said, so you have a step where you're checking the content. There's a moderation queue of some sort that people aren't going to see inappropriate content or text. Like it's pretty locked down and education first. I love that.
Yeah, nothing ever makes it to the Discover page. I mean, that's inappropriate, but you'd also kind of be surprised how little stuff like is ever inappropriate. It's pretty rare that we come across it, just because
That's awesome.
That's good.
I think in some ways, like millennials walked so that Gen Z, could run, or Gen Alpha, whatever it is now, right? Yes, I mean, for real, students, like, they have the word like toxic on the tip of their tongue, right? They don't want to be involved in any toxic environment. So, which is not to say that, we certainly take the precaution to moderate everything, but you'd be surprised how little we actually need to do it.
That's great. That's really encouraging.
Awesome. Very cool.
All right. Thank you. We hope folks will check you out. Antimatter Systems, Antimatter.systems. I'm always just going to see Antimatter Systems in my head, but the punctuation is .systems for your web address, right? I mixed that up at all.
You got it exactly right. You can find us at antimatter.systems or in the App Store. You can just search for Antimatter.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Josh and I are going to wrap here in just a second.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be on the podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. New phone, who dis? No, sorry, I had to come in. I had to come in that way. New phone, who dis? That was awesome. I here's the deal. Will and I, we have these conversations. We know we're going to bring on people. We know we're going to have conversations about things. Well, we don't just, we don't bring on anybody that just pops up. If, we kind of do, but like they have to at least have a topic that makes sense.
If their education, we're interested.
Yeah, so their education, we're interested. But that was amazing, right? Like the thing I love about the conversation with Jonathan is like something that seems so novel and simple, which is memes involved in education, is absolutely not that. That it is actually there's a rich learning theory behind using memes, and behind basically it's a form of storytelling technique that is helpful for learning, right? I think that's a big takeaway I have from talking to Jonathan. It's about getting students and yourself to basically create these kind of story puzzles, if you will, to kind of help educate, help learn, help think, help create, help evaluate as you're working on things in class.
I used to work in a very large university system, and I was kind of on a circuit. I hate to say it that way, but like for about 2 years, I connected with a faculty member who was working on and producing information around digital storytelling. And so I was presenting with him for about 2 years at different local conferences, at different campuses and webinars and stuff about digital storytelling. And frankly, it's kind of funny to me that how popular that was several years ago, but actually how we missed the meme train. Like memes were not a
Yeah.
focus of our digital storytelling. It was really a lot
Yeah,
about
that's
like
true.
how Instagram and how YouTube and the modern podcast, weird, right? Who does
Yeah.
podcasting?
Who does
How
podcast?
all of that is like this new medium, this new form for folks to deliver digital storytelling in an educational purpose. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that first lesson in digital storytelling should be memes, because
Yeah.
when we were taking the time to do that several years ago, we focused a lot on digital storytelling techniques and how storytelling, traditional storytelling, impacts digital. But it got focused in some ways too much on the tool, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever, on how we want to get them to deliver the storytelling. If we focused on memes first, mimetic cultures, mimetic storytelling,
Mhm.
that's so much more powerful in the theory and the philosophy of why and how. Like the how, even since I was giving that tool, TikTok became a thing, right? Like TikTok was barely a thing when I was doing that presentation for a couple of years, and now it's like the biggest storytelling tool available besides
Yeah.
Snapchat, which is like user to user. At least TikTok is more public. Like you put something out
Yeah.
there and you want more people to find it. It's amazing. But now, and again, we would think about like the tools that are involved in modern digital storytelling. Those are for public contexts. This is something we've talked about with like social media for education. That public thing can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. With public, we have more room to test ourselves and be proved against a larger audience, but you have a higher security risk. You have a lot higher concern for privacy and safety, right? Antimatter is showing up to solve that for education. So instead of having our students out there on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, or just making memes randomly across the internet, like we can have them in a platform that will keep them safe, keep them protected, set the right boundaries so that they can learn safely. I'm all about this.
Oh, for sure. And what I really like is it's not just a tool to go in and create a meme. It's they build activities around it. I think that's the thing to set Antimatter apart, right? Is that you can have meme generators, you can have all this stuff, but as we know from being in this environment and using memes, there's plenty of meme generators you can find online. It's more about the fact that there's activity connection to it, like the new phone Who Dis thing that they came up with. I think that's so cool. Like I'm making that joke, but I think it's so cool that they create the system where now an instructor can have their students build conversations around a funny topic in a funny meme concept that you'll have fun with, right? But at the same time, it's causing the students to think critically about a historical character, about a person, or about an idea in a way they didn't do before. And somebody might look at that and go, oh, well, they're just, creating this, having fun type of thing, which it's always interesting to me, by the way, just a side note, in like American culture specifically, maybe it's like in British a little bit too. It's like, if you're having fun in an educational sense, it's like you've ruined something. It's like they're not being tortured. That's unacceptable. Like
they're not cringing, they're not crying.
Yeah, they should be unhappy. Like whatever. But the point here is this: it's not just that. It's an activity that gets students to think critically, and it's engaging in a fun way to do it. And so the fact that they're putting that stuff out there, they're not just creating a meme generator. They're not just jumping on a meme train to create things. They're actually leveraging the meme culture concept and building an educational platform around that, and aspiring to be kind of that platform that does that, but also connects people and has fun. I love the heat map idea too. I think that's super cool. He highlighted something really interesting, which is that, and I've seen this happen before, is like you'll have people do meme activities, but a lot of times they'll like just share it with their instructor, right? They'll upload it to the LMS, or maybe they'll upload it to like a discussion, but then like nothing happens beyond that, right? Other than like we can laugh about the memes. He makes an interesting point about the fact that it's not just that's the key to memes. It's the interaction, it's the questioning, it's the engagement. And so like an activity like heat maps actually gets students to engage with memes afterwards, right? In a fun way. I love that they call it blessing. That is like the best decision ever about making something. If we were in a negative form and you wanted to downvote, I'd be like, you should call that hexing. That would be great if we want to get into like a D&D vibe.
That's better, because I was gonna think curse, but you're right. Curse goes too negative. Like a hex, I'm gonna curse this. I'm gonna hex this one or bless this one.
I want to hex that one. Yeah. So, Jonathan, if you're listening to this part afterwards, There's our suggestion. We didn't get to put it in there.
Free one for you, easy.
Yeah,
Take
you
it.
can
Love it.
drop that in there. I'm sure that's going to change everything. Hexing. That's exactly what Jonathan was looking for. Let's bring negative connotations to my tool. Yeah, so it's super cool. I think you guys should go check it out. If you're listening and you've not tried it, like we said, antimatter.systems, you can check it out. You can download the iOS app if you have an iPhone. If you're like Will and you have an Android, you can still go to antimatter.systems and check that out. It's okay, buddy. It's fine. I only have my iPhone because family members have it. I'm on your side. So
he's Android at heart, folks.
Yeah, hashtag not a sponsor, Apple. And yeah,
this would be a whole different podcast of Apple.
Normally I would say you could be if you wanted to be. I don't know about that one. It's Will and I sell our souls to Apple. Enough money, sure. Whatever you want, I guess. I don't know, just being honest. Anyway, Antimatter.systems. Go check it out. Super cool tool. Try it out. Try doing meme stuff in your classes and different activities. It's a super cool tool. So go check that out. More information in the episode page on our website. If you want to learn how to get engaged and start with the tool, you can check it out there at HiTechPod.us. That's the correct way to say it. There you go. No hot takes. Next episode 122. If you didn't know, that is the number that comes after 121. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. We are going to be bringing back the roastery concept on the HiTech Podcast. We haven't done much of that recently. So we decided we would have fun. Not only are we going to bash Apple today, we're going to next week bash Microsoft Office 365.
Yes.
So Will and I are going to we always give the kind of preliminary statement that with the roastery, okay, there are positives and negatives to all apps. So when we roast an app, it doesn't mean we don't like it. In this case, maybe somewhat, but when we roast an app, the goal for us is to comment on the things that could be better, have a little fun doing it, take off our ties, if you will, because Will and I wear them so often during the podcast. So we're gonna roast Microsoft Office 365, and then we're gonna share an awesome tool with you called 11 Labs that Will and I actually just recently Will's been more engaged with it up to this point, but just recently it saved our butts a little bit on something we were working on in theory. So we are looking forward to talk about 11 Labs next episode. So that's episode 122. Check it out next week as we jump into that. Just a reminder, you can find us on Twitter and YouTube at HiTech Podcast. You can email us at inbox@hitechpod.us. And as a reminder, we have a website. We are on the interwebs, if you will. And it is hitechpod.us. You can find us there. You're bringing it back. Really? Is this about the anti thing? I made jokes about the anti thing, so you gotta show why you're still wrong.
I just want to spell it for people in case they're not sure.
Okay.
How to get to our website,
Sorry. Yeah.
HITECHPOD.US.
Yeah. Okay. You do you. HiTechPod.us. You can find us online. Every episode has a fun episode page with context about the app or tool we talk about, so you can check it out there. Again, thank you for joining us for another week as we continue to learn what it looks like to harness memes, stories, technology to enhance the classroom, whether online or in person. We love talking about with you guys. See ya.